Welcome students. So students, today we are going to understand about the tuples, what exactly tuples are. So tuples are one of the data types of Python. As you know, there are the basic data types of Python that we have. We have the numbers, the strings, the list, dictionary, tuples. So these are the basic data types of Python, and these are like most important, like to deal with data is what we require is the list, dictionary, and tuples. So tuple is also one of the important data types. So let us understand what exactly is a tuple. So tuple is also just like a list where you can store data, and you can store multiple data types, okay, as the elements. Okay, for example, we have a tuple, so I will just use the variable t just to denote that it's a tuple variable, but you can give any name to this tuple. So it's just a name of the variable, so t, and then the parenthesis opening and closing, and then you can specify your elements. Like I can specify 1 2 3 4. So these are like integer numbers that I've specified, but I can even have the floating numbers, and I can even have the string, right? So these are the elements of the tuples. And simply if I just use the print statement, print and t, and try to run this, let me just save this like test.py, and you can see the output of this particular script, and that is the tuple. Okay, so I said, okay, that tuples are just like a list, but there is a huge difference between a list and a tuple. And the difference is that tuples are immutable data types. Please understand this. Tuples are immutable, whereas lists are mutable data types. You know that we can change the elements, change the values of a particular element into a tuple, into a list, but we cannot do that for a tuple. So once I define a tuple, okay, so it will always remain fixed. Okay, so we cannot change the values of the tuple. Understand it. And that's the I guess the major difference between a tuple and a list. So let us go forward and let us understand more about the tuples, how to create tuple. This is a simple way I told you. You can create a tuple. Another way you can create a, like, for example, if I just do not give anything, I just simply use the parenthesis, so this is like an empty tuple. Okay, you can also use the function called as tuple, the tuple function, opening and closing. So even this is going to create an empty tuple for us. Okay, and this is also going to work the same. That's an empty tuple. So if I want to specify one thing, you should be taking care of. For example, if I just say 5, and I say that this is a tuple, but this is not a tuple, it will not take it as a tuple because this has been taken as just a value 5 which has the opening and closing brackets. So if you want to specify element, a integer element or a floating element which has only one value, one element inside the tuple, so make sure after that value you give a comma. Now this is like, the interpreter will understand that this is just not a single number, but it's actually a tuple. For example, if I don't use the comma and I try to run this, and you can see the output of this particular script, we are just going to have the value 5. Now why we have the value 5? It's just, it's not a tuple actually. Okay, so just to make this as tuples, we can specify it as comma. Now if I run this, you can see that it's 5 and comma. Now this is actually a tuple. Okay, so this is how you can specify a tuple. Make sure that do not make mistakes. Please separate the elements by comma, and if there is a single value of an integer value or a floating value, please specify the comma after the first element, and that is very important. As I said, you can use the tuple function also, Okay, so for a tuple function, you can say t is equal to, and I can specify a sequence of string or any other string you can provide, like a list as well. So if I provide this as tuple of a string of a sequence of string, so every individual character will be taken as an element. Okay, so if I run this, you can see the output that we have a tuple and every character is actually the element of a tuple, right? So this is how you can use the tuple function. Make sure that after this what we have is how to access the, okay, yes, how to access the elements of a tuple. Now accessing the elements of tuple, and then we have tuple slicing. It is absolutely the same as what we do with the list and strings. Okay, so if I have a tuple like hello and I want to access, do the traversal basically, so I can simply use a for loop and I say for I in t. So what is this going to do is I is basically going to have initially h, and then let me just print I. So if I say print I, so it is going to print h, and so since I just use print, so by default the cursor is going to come to the next line, right? So it is going to individually take the characters and it is going to print. So this is going to create a tuple of individual characters and then I access the elements. So if I run this, you can see the output of this particular code. We are going to have something like this. Okay, and if I give end, like, specify a, a space, so you're ending it with a space, and now we will have the same but with a space gap in between. You can see there is a gap in between every individual character. Okay, so please understand tuple are immutable data type. That is the one thing that you should be keeping keeping in your mind, and we cannot change the values of a tuple just like what we do it in a list. Okay, so let us just try this. I mean, t of, indexing is also the same. Before I go ahead, so if I can, using that indexing, I can, access the individual characters. So if I say this is HELLO, so this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So 0 to 4. So if I want to access O, so I can specify like fourth, that is fourth index value. So this is going to individually only print O. You can see this output, and we have O out here, right? So we can use, indexing, and using the indexing we can access the values. So we have the forward indexing and we have the backward indexing. So if I use -1 as well, it is going to be the same output. This is a backward indexing, so it is going to start from the back. So this is -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So if I just run this, we are going to have the same output, that is O, right? So this is how you can individually access using the indexing. So what I did before is just I said for I in t, and then I said print I, but I can do this using the indexing. I can say I in, and I then use the range, and inside this the len, and close it. Now over here I is not going to be that individual characters. I mean, I is going to be the values, because this len t is going to produce 4, I mean 5 out here. Okay, so this particular range function is going to generate a series that is 0 to 4. So I is going to be those values, that is 0. Initially it will be 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and then 4. And now if I have to print the individual values, how I'm going to do that? I'm going to say t and then the bracket, square brackets, and I. So this is like I'm accessing the, the characters, the elements, using that index value. So that was the difference between what I did before and what I did now. Okay, so if I run this, you can see the output. It's the same output, and if I want the gap in between, I can simply use this one, and now we are going to have the same output. Okay, so please remember, forward indexing, backward indexing is absolutely the same. How you're going to access the elements is going to be the same. Okay, but still again I repeat, tuples are like immutable data types. So something, if I try to do that, I want to change the value at the fourth index, and I say I want to store k out here. Okay, and then I try to print t. Let us try to run this particular code, and what we get out here is an error, because tuple, okay, objects does not support item assignment. It basically means that tuples are immutable, so we cannot change that individual items or elements. Okay, as well as we cannot, really do something to add the element or delete the element. All that functionality that we have in list, we do not have that in tuple, because tuples are immutable. Please remember this. And then the list, just like we have the list slicing, string slicing, we also have tuple slicing. It is absolutely the same. So if I do something like I remove this, and over here I use the slicing, so I start from 0, go till 3. So what does this mean? So it means that I'm going to start with 0 and go till 3, means that will be 3 minus 1. So 0, 1, 2. So that is what? HEL, right? And you can see the output out here, right? So we have a new tuple. It is going to return a new tuple which is having the sequence HEL. Okay, so please remember, children, that slicing is going to be the same. Just in last video I have told you how to do the list slicing. It is absolutely the same thing that we have it for the tuple as well. So please remember this. And then we can perform certain operations on tuples. And for example, I have, okay, I remove all this now and have the simple tuple like 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. And then we will have another tuple like t2, and let me name this as t1. So I will say like 3 comma 4. Okay, and then I say t3. So we can perform such operations on tuple, that is t1 plus t2. So it is going to just add these two elements. Adding means it is just going to make that as one tuple, and then going to have another tuple, that is t3. So t3 is going to have all the elements of 1 2 3 4, and as well as 3 comma 4. So 3 and 4 are like repeating, but still it will be the part of the tuple. Please understand this. So if I run this, let us see the output. What we have, you can see these are the first four elements of t1, that is 1 2 3 4, and again 3 and 4 which was of t2, and we actually added that and gave it to t3. Added means we just had both the elements inside a single tuple. Okay, so this is how you can perform it. And then we also have an into operator. If I say something like t1 into 2, so this is going to replicate this tuple twice, and we are going to have 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, and again the same sequence followed it, but it is going to be in one tuple. Okay, you can see it is one tuple, and we just replicated that. So that is 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, and again we have those elements 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. So this is how you can, perform operations on a tuple. Okay, then moving forward, what we are, how to do the, okay, I've taken the slicing of tuples is done. Then unpacking of tuple. This is also very interesting, how to unpack a tuple. So now that I want this individual elements into my variables, so how I can have that? So if I say a comma b comma c comma d, and then I give that t1 to this. Now let me just remove that t1. Let me just have t. Because there are four elements, so I need to provide four variables. So what is going to happen out here, this is called as unpacking process. Now in this, what is going to happen is the first element a1 is going to get assigned to a, the second is going to get assigned to the second variable, that is b, the third element is going to get assigned to c, and the fourth element is going to get assigned to d. So now if I try to print a comma b comma c comma d, so these variables are going to have these values. Okay, and this process is called as unpacking of a tuple. Okay, so I have those values inside a normal variable now. Okay, and if I do not provide a proper sequence, like we have 4 out here, but I'm providing 3, and let me just remove this. Okay, so this is actually not going to work because we require too many values to unpack. Okay, expected is 3, so we need to give exactly the same number of elements that we have in the tuple, and we need to provide the same number of variables out here. Please remember that. Okay, so this was about unpacking the tuples, and then we have, as I said, we cannot do any kind of addition or deletion. So we don't have like append and all that, because tuples are immutable. But we can use the functions of a tuple, functions for tuple. For example, I can simply use the length function to calculate the length of the tuple. So it is going to just count the number of elements and going to give us a value. So this is going to give me the value that is 4, because there are 4 elements. Okay, and then I can use a max function. A max function, suppose I have 50, 25 out here, let me have 78, 12, then 56. So max function is going to give me the max value in this particular tuple. So if I run this and see the output, we have 78. Why 78? Because 78 is the max value. Then similarly we have the min value. So if I use the min function, it is going to give me the minimum value, and the minimum value is 1, as you can see out here. So we can use this for numbers, and we can use this for strings. Understand it? Okay, but do not mix you shouldn't have mixed data type. Okay, so min and max, what you can do, you can use it, and if you want the index value of some of a value, then you can use this, that is associated. Now this is a method, please understand this. T dot, and I said in my previous videos, if we have something like this which is associated with the object, that can be a tuple or a list, then this is called as a method. Methods are also functions, but they are associated with the object. So if I give something like 78, so it is going to give me the index value of 78. So what is the index value? 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So if I run this, you can see the output, that is 4, right? And then we have one more, that is, we have done this before, count. Now count, we have it in list also and in strings also. So count, if I want to count how many, it is just going to count the number of occurrences. So if I have one more 78, so there are two 78s, right? So if I run this, it is going to give the value that is 2. Why 2? Because the occurrences are 2 out here. Okay, so this is how you can use the functions, and so that is all that we have in this particular chapter. Tuples are like immutable data types, and we cannot change the elements, we cannot add the elements, delete the elements. So once I define a tuple, so it is going to be the fix. Okay, so later on, I cannot, in my code, I cannot actually add or delete the elements. I cannot change the elements of this particular tuple. Please understand it. So this is all about the tuples. So children, please, we need to cover up a few more things. That is, for dictionaries, I will try to upload few videos if there is if I really get time. So I'm going to upload few more videos on dictionaries. This is a tuple. Tuple is actually very simple to understand. And then what we have after this is the Boolean algebra. After Boolean algebra, we have DBMS, so we need to cover up that as well. So no issues, but you need to practice from your end. uh, I did pretty fast all these things. I showed it very fast to you, but it is not going to be the same for you. It will take time for you to understand these things. So it all depends how much time you spend, how much you practice. Okay, so that's it for today. Bye for now.